Welcome to Can Angels Fly? I'm Nancy. And today I'm here to discuss comprehension. I know you're saying comprehension. Comprehension relative to our experience here in this physical realm and this popular concept of beings, human beings, ascension. What do I mean? How well are we truly comprehending this physical plane that we are in, the experiences we are having, the reason why we are having them, and where are we going? Comprehension. Before I go into this very brief video, I just got to say this quote because it fits so well tonight. And that quote is, when the student is ready, the teacher, the guru, will appear. Yeah, that has been the case today. As I share here on YouTube often, I've become a YouTube junkie. So I've been finding more and more people to watch. And it's great because I have lived in a world where I've been this nutty philosopher all my life with no one to bounce off of. My only teacher, where I received my credentials, is from life. With that being said, I like to reference this video that I have been watching. This is like my third time around, very short video. I'm not going to play it off for you. Feel free to pull it up here on YouTube. And it is called The 5 Laws of a Spiritual Relationship. And it's on the channel called Inner Standing. And I believe the instructor or the guru name is Sevan Bomar, something like that. I think I wrote that down. As I mentioned, this video will be brief, but I have to talk about something that's been on my mind, and it is about our comprehension. And the information my mind has been analyzing for many years starts with the in the beginning, the religious in the beginning. And there was Adam and Eve, well, whatever it was, in the beginning, all the way up into the current. The way my mind works, I look at all the clues. The clues of this world would introduce themselves to me, have introduced themselves to me in the course of my life. And at first, I couldn't comprehend them. I didn't know I had to comprehend them. But the way my life has been set up, I was coerced by life to pay attention to the clues and to comprehend what was being introduced to me. So here I sit today with a mind that continually comprehends the contents of this world. What contents, all forms, everything that I've been exposed to. Well, I have referred you to the video I talked about, the 5 laws of a spiritual relationship, on the channel of Inner Understanding. And I have to say this, that the fellow Sevan Bomar, quite handsome. quite handsome. He's easy on the eyes. He's laid back and very intelligent. I'm going to stop short because I don't want to say anything wrong. Not at all. But I bring up his simple charm because just like myself, many of us are looking for or waiting a teacher, a guru, so that we can advance our comprehension of the realm in which we live, to come to understand some of these crazy concepts or ideas that we hear about, such as the end of the Mayan calendar, us ascending, the Mandela effect, all of these new things. And this brother has some information, major information. But as I was listening to his video just a short while ago, it's very short. It's just over 17 minutes. Like I said, I'm on my third round listening to it because I was breaking it down, because it actually ended up bringing to the forefront for me what my mind has been taking account of and evaluating and comprehending for years. And remember, I was saying what my mind was analyzing and comprehending for years was the relationship story, which started in the beginning with Adam and Eve. I'm gonna try to make it make sense. There's no order to this. I just felt the need to make it clear, so to be at the front of our minds that humanity, have been going through some major shifts ever since we were created. Major shifts. And what is the major shift we've been going through? Well, I just kind of want to give a basic rundown of what I'm talking about. Maybe I can make it make sense then. Oh, I wish I could speak like Sevan. Oh, he speaks so proficiently. I'm challenged in that area. Anywho, I digress. And I go and begin to recite the account that my mind has been accumulating for years. And it is relative to relationships. Remember, his videos, Mr. Bomar's video is entitled The 5 Laws of a Spiritual Relationship. So I have to go and share my account of what my mind has been perceiving in the course of my life relative to a spiritual relationship. Is significant. And I believe that the majority of us are getting this basic information, and it's key. It's key to our existence here in this physical realm. It's key to the future, whoever may exist in the future, our children, or if we reincarnate. Anyway, this key information about spiritual relationships is, why is it key? I'm going to stop, long pause, and say, forgive my appearance. I know I've been appearing here on YouTube looking bold, but I've been very busy and doing constant research. Either I'm busy or I'm constantly researching, and I haven't had time for beautification or even dressing up. As I shared, I'm like that mad philosophist. So I get caught in the research, and that's all that matters to me. And when I come out, then I have to tend to home. So in life. And so what you see before you is somewhat of a scattered brain, and I'm actually going back into the phase of focusing my mind on my works and study. The mad philosophers. Okay, end of that break. Let me begin with my recall of my account of the spiritual relationship as I know it from the beginning. Religiously. The very first earthly or worldly spiritual relationship was between God and this man named Adam and this lady named Eve. I do believe these are hypothetical stories, but just ride the wave with me. In the beginning, God created Adam and soon thereafter Eve. And Adam and Eve resided in this garden here on this earth, the Garden of Eden or something. Anyway, Adam and Eve did not want for anything at all. They didn't even have to eat of the fruits of this world, this garden, this, what do you call it, like ecosystem, like aquarium they were put into. All of their knowledge and awareness was through the eyes of God, their creator. While in that garden, Adam and Eve were free to do just about anything that their limited imagination could lead them to do. But it was this one thing that God told them not to do. We know that story. Don't eat the fruits from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For if you do, if you do, from that day you should surely die or something like that. But you know us humans, we got to do the taboo. And so they partook in that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. How did God know that they ate one single piece of fruit from that tree? It was because they became aware of their nudity. And when God saw that they had covered themselves up, like, you didn't even know you were naked. So how do you know you were naked? Of course, God knew that they had partaken of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so they told them. And as a result, God put them out of the garden. This is it. We must comprehend the tales that we are told. They have a message. But before I move forward, I got to say this. That again, those are hypothetical tales. And the truth is, we who, humans, do not know when we got here. We don't know who our creator is. We don't know where we come from. We don't know any of it. Why? Because we're so far removed from the beginning, from the initiation, that the truth, the facts, have been lost. In the end of that note. So, back to that creation story, I guess. It's not a part of the creation story. The development of humanity. The initiation of humanity, anyway. So, now we find that Adam and Eve are outside of the garden, and they're no longer under the guardianship or discipline of divine God. And they're out on their own. They have to learn the world. They have to learn how to fend for themselves. Now, mind you, while they were in the garden, it was just perfect weather. They didn't have to worry about anything. Any critters in there were under the divine's control, so they didn't have to worry about anything biting them. They were just free to swim in the springs, just this beautiful oasis. But once outside of the garden, although the earth wasn't as contaminated as now. It was not contaminated, but it was also not cultivated. So imagine coming out of this little corner of the earth with this beautiful garden out into a desert, rocky, dry land with some scorpions or some stuff like that. And they had to learn how to survive in that without God's direction. Now, don't get me wrong, y'all. This is not a religious video. It is a spiritual video. I am just right now referring to that story because it has, what's the word? It has substance. And so I'm going to draw the substance from that story in just a moment. And I believe that I will be paralleling that story, the substance of that story, to now in order to show where we who humanity will soon be socially in the life. Okay. So now we got Adam and Eve out here having to learn the terrain, having to cultivate the terrain, because now they have to eat. They are removed from God. So at this point, they were starved to death. So they got to learn to eat. Then they learn that they're going to have babies that they procreate. You know how labor is. It's very, very, very painful. As close to death as you can get without dying. So they're going through all of these changes and becoming educated to what? This realm and what it means to be in the physical, to be a part of this ecosystem and learning it. Why do I bring that up? It is because of this video that Mr. Bomar created, the 5 laws of a spiritual relationship. And at the beginning of the video, he says humanity is at a place, a point during their timeline that either we are reaching a crescendo, a critical moment of ascension, acceptance and ascension, or a repeat. What does a repeat suggest? That since human beings have existed in this physical realm, this is not our first time around the block. Which block? The same block that our proverbial Adam and Eve went around when they were cast out of the garden and had to learn this realm on their own. They had to learn how to survive relative to the landscape. They had to learn how to build shelter, to make clothes, to find food, to learning how to fight off the elements as far as the weather, and so much more. Repeat. Not only is it about the story of Adam and Eve, we have the story of Noah, where that system of things, the way humans did things and created the system in order to survive in the realm at their time, in this realm at their time. That flood was a reset moment. If you follow me, you've heard me say here on YouTube, I have researched before in the past. So my facts might not be clear. But I do believe the Earth has gone through at least 9 extinction level events, resets, and repeats. Why do I bring that up? Because Mr. Bomar says that either we are reaching a critical mass moment in which we accept and ascend, or we go through a repeat. In this video, he goes on and talks about relationships are a key component to manifesting your vision, which it really is. Before I go into that, I need to go back and refer to historical lifestyles. Now we can look back at our proverbial Adam and Eve because they together had to work together in order to make it. It was no way they could have survived that challenge of against life without each other. But I'm going to fast forward it into I'm going to just say the 1700s, 1800s when I ain't really want to go 1800, I'm going to say 1700. When the lands that we live on weren't cultivated to the extent in which they are now. As far as shelter, it wasn't no big old houses and buildings and skyscrapers. It wasn't the modern medicine we have now. People died very young. You hear about the bubonic plague and polio, influenza, all those things were wiping communities out because there was no medicine. They did not understand what this ram and how to use it in order to aid us who humans in our existence in this world, how to bring about longevity. We had to advance here to this level. What am I talking about? I don't want to get lost without a layout. So I'm still talking about relationships. Because remember, Mr. Bomar was talking about relationships are a key component to manifesting your vision. I said, yes, that's 100% true. So I was going to do a reference. So I kind of want to bring it up and think, well, that would be that particular reference on TV. It depends on which age you are, if you know what I'm talking about. But maybe like the Little House on the Prairie, when they were just building up wooden shacks and they believed in having a large family. It was the mom, the dad, the grandfather, the grandmother, the children. But all of them, no matter what age, had their work to do. And there were traditional roles in place in order to do what? Satisfy the demands of life in order to survive and hopefully to strive. But survival was the first. That was the first on the agenda, to survive during those times and prior. I'm trying to create the story so that you understand where I'm going. Just ride the wave with me. It's really important to check on our level of comprehension about what is happening. Because this is the thing, another note, we are looking at it religiously. When this is a part of our spiritual journey here in this physical realm, and it is relative to our overall being, existence. So I'm talking about this just being a portion. Again, I'm talking about the same thing I always talk about, of what we are or where we come from. All the evidence is here, but are we comprehending it? I know y'all, I'm all over the place. Just ride the wave with me. So let me go back to this Little House on the Prairie as an example, where these folks in a dry desert land, a very challenging landscape in which to live in, to survive even, to overcome illness, to push off or ward off death, to sustain your lives, to go through the pregnancy, to deal with all the human urges that exist in such a terrain as that. But those people had to pull together, and each people did their works. Larger families were common because they needed more hands to do the work. The father was usually the head, and he worked long hours. He got up in the morning, he worked from the sun up to the sundown. The mother stayed home and she took care of the house and she cleaned. And when, as the children came along, she helped take care. She took care of the children, the home, and made sure that the food was prepared for the family, especially the husband who would have been out in the field all day long in the hot sun or the dry desert, whatever the case may be. The children, they did their chores. They knew which herbs to pick or flowers to pick. This is before schooling. And they pulled water from the wells and they just assisted mom around home. As the children got older, they would go out into the field to help father or the daughters to help mother. But it was expediting, meeting the requirements, the necessities to sustain their lives. The bigger the family, the more work that could be done. The bigger the family, the larger the crops, the more they could harvest and store up, like for difficult seasons or just to store up. Why is this important? Why is the story of Adam and Eve important? Why is the story of a Little House on the Prairie as an example important? Because these are timeline markers to where we're headed. Remember, in the beginning, Adam and Eve only had to depend on God. They didn't have to worry about anything. They were innocent like children. But when they broke the rules and got kicked out, their first thing they had to tackle, the first challenge they had to deal with was learning how to survive in this physical realm without the author, without the teacher. And they did it. And they moved forward, even Adam and Eve moved forward and began to technologically advance for their time period. They learned how to live in a cave. They learned how to make fires. They learned how to cleanse their body in the springs, etc., etc. They learned that when Eve got pregnant, she had to go through that labor. Then she learned to breastfeed. So it was trial and error. They learned it the hard way. We have advanced to here. No, we advance next to the Little House on the Prairie scenario, where they're still in the same place. They're learning to ram. They're trying to survive. They see that they need more. As the family grows, they need more. And they see the more the family grows, the more workers they had, and the more that they could build up or store up. And they too were slowly learning and technologically advancing. That time period, historically has been related to creating the shack. They came out the mountains creating shacks. They also created what they call them, the wagon, beginning to transport or to move or to migrate. They learned how to plow and feel, and the creation of the yoke, technological advances. But even with the technological advancements at that time, life was still difficult. Very, very difficult. Very, very challenging. Very demanding. But okay, we made it. We survived. We have survived everything. Bring it up to date, and let's say now. We have technologically, remember, advanced. We have truly jumped. We know we don't even have to really get out in the fields anymore. We have crops and buildings. We have irrigation systems that are electronically regulated. We have environmental home controls. I don't know if I said it right, heating and cooling systems. We have glasses of all types. We have technologically advanced so far from in the beginning. I mean, in the beginning, even the Little House on the Prairie time period, they were still washing clothes on their hands with a scrub board and having to go hang them out on the line. Not us anymore. We go to the cleaners or we throw them in the wash machine. It's done. So what am I saying? Why do I bring it up to date to the current family structure? It is because now we don't have to get out into the fields. We're not surviving anymore. We striving. We making it happen, and it's all due to us who humanity technologically advancing, comprehending this environment, and rather than working ourselves half to death, we have learned how to use the content of this world to assist us. And so pay attention. This is what I'm trying to get to with all this rambling, is that the family structure, for the most part, has begun to decrease. The perfect utopia now, if you're going to have children, is to have two, a boy and a girl. That's it. No more. People are serious about it. Many people don't even entertain the idea of having children. Why? Because children cost, because children are demanding, and we who individuals in humanity don't need a large family in order to meet demands life requires us to meet. We don't need them anymore. So what am I saying? You hear me say here on my YouTube channel, we are some very narcissistic people. Selfish, self-righteous, self-centered, self-focused. Long pause. Well, back to this. Relationships are a key component to manifesting your vision. In the beginning with Adam and Eve, their relationship and their being able to depend on each other was key to them manifesting their vision. What was their vision? To survive that current circumstance of being cast into a wilderness without the direction of their creator. Then let's go to the little house on the prairie. Their relationships, the family unit, the mother, the father, the grandfather, the children, et cetera, everybody doing their works. What was their vision? Was to manifest enough to sustain their life. Now, currently, relationships. What constitutes a relationship now? Simply, it's usually a man and a woman desiring to be in each other's embrace. Living the good life, the material life. We who, every individual in the humanity, talking about partnerships, that are in a partnership, are not interested in so much survival. Survival has become easy. We are not so much interested even in striving. We strived during the mid 1800s until the early 1900s. We strived and we have persevered and had these technological. I'm like, what the heck is that? I'm up in the middle of the night, y'all. They trying to survive. Don't pay no mind. I'm just trying to get decided out. Currently, where are we? We are now self-indulgent. So interesting. When I study the stars, the same information is coming out. Are we comprehending it? I just made a rambling rant talking about this. Are we really comprehending what's been before us from the moment that we entered into this world out of the womb? We are not comprehending it. Anyway, I digress on that as well. So I bring that up. What am I really trying to focus on here is the fact that we have gone from a time period in which we needed each other. We believed in large families and how we had to work together to sustain ourselves. Then we got to this point that got easier and we learned how to work together. We had the big families. Then we began to strive and really make it happen. We began to technologically advance. Now we're here where we don't want big families because we've overcome. We ain't just surviving no more. We're not just striving no more. Shoot. Technology has allowed us to advance to a place where basically it's hands-free living. The challenges, the hurdles have all been removed. Therefore, people don't desire to have large families. What am I talking about? Because this video is getting long. I'm still talking about all that we've learned. I'm talking about this ascension thing. If you follow me, you've heard me talk about what the ascension is. Here's another part of the ascension. It is, remember, I got to go back to Mr. Bomar's statement where he says we're entering a time, we're at a time where either we're going to reach a crescendo, a critical moment of acceptance and ascension, or we're going to do a repeat. Now, what does that mean? What if we're going to reach this crescendo, what does that mean? Well, we accept now that what? The facts are, we don't want big families. We have gotten to this self-seeking, self-serving, narcissistic place. We don't have to work as hard anymore. It's hands off. So why have a big family? What am I trying to say? I'm not doing a good job. Overall, what is happening to humanity is that we have been slowly, see, this is the overlapping of the things in our existence that have shrouded what is really going on from us being able to see us through every individual in humanity. Anyway, back to this moment of awareness, acceptance, and ascension. We are aware that we're no longer just trying to survive. We're doing that. We are aware that it ain't even about trying to strive. We done did that. Hey, check this out. It ain't even about us technologically advancing, because that Pandora's box is already open and ain't no shutting it. So what we where we are now is hands-free. No longer needing a big family. We're hands off. So what is this creating in this world? It is creating, let me stop. Because it's another layer I got to deal with. See, it's getting complicated. But I'm going to point it out. You can break it down. I believe in you. So let's go back to whoever our creator is. And how some theories are that we are merely a multiplicity of divinity, of our God. We are a portion that has been granted the ability to separate, to experience individuality. And at some point and at some time, we all will be emerged back into it. God, the mind, the divine mind, the all. So, what am I saying? That if humanity did not exist now, we would all be back one with the divine. We have gone through this process in the course of the history of humanity. How about this? The course of the history of humanity only existed because we who? Everybody that was, that is, or that will be, came from God, came from the all. So we were all one unit. And then something happened, the creative spirit, whatever the case may be, And then here we are with all these billions and billions of people over the timeline of humanity having individual experience. But in the beginning, so I'm trying to get complications, and this is where the religion falls in. See, it's religion, it's spirituality, it's all over the place. Remember, I'm the mad philosopher. Right away. In the beginning, coming from the all, one unit, all of a sudden, we can say shattering into billions of people. But our souls were so familiar with being one. So we live together. We work together. In order to survive, we survive together. In order to strive, we strive together. And then something happened. We who, humanity, have been away from God, divinity, so long, separated, and fully engaged and engulfed in this physical realm, learning it, learning all the components of it, cataloging and categorizing all that we learn. You hear me talk about that here on YouTube, like the elements, the various food sources, what this can do for us. And I'm talking about natural resources and stuff like that. And how those things, natural resources can and have helped us technologically advance. Something happened. The more knowledge that we obtain as a result of that proverbial tree of knowledge of good and evil, we know that we learned how to master this realm. And because we learned how to master this realm by using it against itself for our benefit, we have come to a place where we have or have begun to create longevity for ourselves without all the demanding work. So now we don't need each other. What am I saying? We who, people, humanity, past, present, and future, came from the all, the collective, the oneness. And in the course of our being, we have shifted. Imagine a pendulum swinging from divinity, swinging over, something happened. And now we're headed on the opposite side of that pendulum to oneness again. However, the oneness that we are moving toward is not one of I'll say divinity, using it as a word of greatness, of purity. We've moved from that. And now we're headed back to oneness, but the negative expression of oneness. Again, that's that level of religion there. One of those veils that exist that have kept us confused, shrouded the facts to what has been taking place. So I'm stopping. I got to go back and still talk about this video that I watched because I got to say the quote again. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And this Bomar is a teacher. He's a teacher. But he is again, this video is about comprehension. Comprehending what? Any contents in this world that we encounter. And right now, I have encountered the Sevan Bomar and his video, The 5 Laws of a Spiritual Relationship. Comprehension. Now, this is the part that I need to make sense. If none of it, the rest of it makes sense. Is that we remember something happened. And now the pendulum is swinging in the opposite direction toward oneness again, but the opposite expression of divinity of that oneness. It is the darker aspects related to existence. He is a teacher of this, what did he call it? New paradigm. He's a teacher who teaches as a guide. He's a guide to those that can see the new paradigm, what the ascension is, the final outcome of the ascension in this physical world. But he leaves out, here it goes again, it's this religious connotation. These are such complex concepts and ideas that have been overlapped and intertwined. They're so hard to take apart. In order for us to comprehend, we first must see. And that's what I attempt to do on this channel, with a little bit of humor, with being at home with you, sharing the research that, the results of my research. What am I saying? Because I'm all over the place. I know. So I right now am defining Sevan Bomar as a teacher. He is an excellent teacher, but he's a teacher for those that are ascended, that will ascend and understand. They are comprehending this whole ascension process and what it actually means to ascend. Thus far, what have I said it actually means to ascend relative to this video, which is about not only comprehension, but about relationships. That relationships are no longer, or excuse me, how about this? Relationships are completely redefined under this ascension, under this new paradigm. And so I go and I quote from him in that video. He says, oh, I am just really being thrown off. Who rides a motorcycle 1-2 o'clock in the morning and have issues? Devil is a lie. I always told you he don't like me. But I also tell you, that's okay. Oh, they just having a funky good old time. Today's Saturday. Okay. I'm the only lame at home. Hours upon hours of research, y'all. I really got thrown off. But he was saying about the relationships. I won't be straight up quoting, but he talks about the new reality and how the divine masculine and the divine feminine have that old paradigm is over. We can tell that. And he points out how the male has both the masculine and feminine energy within himself as an independent being. This is true. Men have the emotions they feel, they care, and they also have power and assertiveness. The same is true for a female. She has both aspects. She is masculine masculine and feminine. She too has an assertive essence as well as the sensitivity relative to femininity. And he was saying now is the time that we must come to grips. Remember, new paradigm. That old concept or construct associated with male and female, the demands and stuff, the roles are done away with. This is a part of the ascension. Remember, it's about acceptance. Acceptance that men are not as they used to be defined and women are not as they used to be defined. He also talks about how they are complete individuals, therefore they don't need each other to fill in. That's a whole nother video. I'm not even going to try to tackle that subject. There is some truth to it, but then there is also there's truth to it, but then there is still always I'll just say the other side of the coin in short and let it go. Maybe another video. Anyway, he says it's no need to partner physically in order to supplement. You know, he didn't say that. That's not a quote. That's kind of me. Just that is me. Kind of rounding his statement off. But he says no need to partner physically to supplement yourself or your needs or trying to meet your demands in life. Remember, due to the process we have undertaken in the history of humanity, we no longer need to partner in order to survive, in order to strive at all. Now, this is what he's talking about. Why don't we have to do this anymore? Why is it not a requirement? It is because technology has made us hands-free. And because we're hands-free, we don't have to depend on each other. So those basic gender role models don't have to persist in order for us to survive. Side note. That even stands true when it comes to procreation. We can go to a lab now and they'll hook us up. End of side note. Anyway, but what am I saying here? Because I know I'm all over the place. Just ride the wave with me. Is that we are on the other side. We are more than halfway past the midpoint of the pendulum swinging to the opposite side of the pendulum. Something happened. And during that process of the swinging of this pendulum I'm speaking of. What's the pendulum? Let me define it. Make sure we're on the same page. I'm all over the place. Ride away with me. One side of the pendulum is when we was with God and all. That's Adam and Eve in the garden. Then it swung down and we went through this whole phase on this half of the pendulum. And it included learning how to survive in this here realm. And then learning how to, deal with it and strive. Then we hit this midpoint. The ground zero point in which, boom, we began to technologically advance. We started understanding this world. We start organizing, compartmentalizing, researching, and now we have so much technology. We are completely hands-free of God. And so now we're swinging to the opposite side of the pendulum, the negative, darker, more self-centered, more egotistical, self-centered, focused, narcissistic. We don't need a new family side of the pendulum. Now, what am I talking about now? Now that we are on the incline, going through the ascension process of understanding where we are, and therefore things are redefined. Either you accept what has happened, what is the result of that, of our technological evolution. These are the facts associated with it. And now life will be like this. Either you accept it, you line up with it, and then you ascend. You have to become clear. The issue is that many of us are not comprehending what is taking place. So understand that the new paradigm is already in existence. We are coming, now that Uranus is in Taurus, we are coming to the solidification, the manifestation, the material part of our reality, reestablishing our reality. And many of us are not comprehending what this will mean for this globe and for our lives, whether you work or you don't work, whether you sit on the couch or eat bonbons or not. This change is going to affect us on every level. Right now, I've been talking about relationships, even in relationships. Because see, don't nobody, let me just go hard because I can't get it together. Ain't nobody gonna wanna be with you because of, we can say, love, or about loyalty to survival. They don't need you to survive no more. They're not going to want to be with you for procreation reasons. And this, all these things are changing. Either we accept it and we swing with the pendulum and rise in order to vibe on the same level, or we get what was a part of the religion, again, another layer, making it so confusing, shrouding what we needed to know. You get left behind. This is the season. Tell your religious friends and family, this is the season of getting left behind. That's deep. And I just said in the other video, I spent all that money on that series. This is the season of getting left behind. Anyway, still talking about partnerships. He also talks about the end of gender-specific responsibilities, which I just talked about, where the father, went out to the field, worked from sun up to sundown. The mother stayed at home, raised children, and cooked and kept the cabin clean. All that is gone. And why is it gone? It's just because, right here, the technological advancements, our understanding of this realm has created a whole new paradigm for us. And we are currently living in that paradigm. And believe it or not, that paradigm just started. See, these things are like watching paint dry. That the actual paradigm began March 2011. Actual paradigm, I bet you can't even see. Can't even see. Are you comprehending? Anyway, but what Mr. Bomar says about these particular relationships, we talking about the divine masculine and feminine men and women, is that you have to learn how to work together for the purpose of what? For future success. How do you gain future success for under the new paradigm, new structure? Remember, Pluto is in Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn. New structure, new paradigm is here beginning March 2011. Well, you have to understand the rules that are associated with the new paradigm. Are we comprehending? The new paradigm says you don't need a big family. The new paradigm says that you can be self-centered. The new paradigm says there are no gender specifics. The new paradigm says that technology is totally geared by technology and how technology is able to help us in society. Think of all the ways technology is assisting us in not only surviving and striving, it's allowing us to live hands-free and live good and have longevity. All of that in every way it's affecting this world is a new rule associated with the new paradigm. And if you don't fit into it, then you get left behind. So, but if you fit into it, then you will be successful in the future. And what am I saying? Is that this fellow, Mr. Sevan Bomar, is the face of a successful being relative to this current new paradigm. He says, come here and let me show you. But for those that cannot realize nor comprehend, or luck is not on their side, will be left behind. Anyway, what is the purpose of the relationships and learning how to work with relationships under this new paradigm? Is because it's imperative for men and women, because remember we're talking about the divine masculine and divine feminine, to know how to relate to each other. Because remember, there are no specific gender responsibilities or duties. A child can have two dads or two moms. So what is that? Sexual liberation. It's all kinds of things going on. So it's important for the genders to know how to work together, because we have the responsibility of taking care and of teaching our children. And so what does that mean from the poster person, Mr. Sevan, of this new paradigm? The children must understand the paradigm, making sure not to teach the children that are born the old system, because they will be having, there'll be conflict, inner conflict with themselves and with the community and with the family if they are taught the old paradigm, the old structure. When now, as of March 2011, there is a new paradigm. So what am I saying? Any child that is born since, I believe it's March 2011, while Aries was in Uranus. Am I in agreement with this? Don't get me wrong, I'm not. But neither, I'm most likely I'm going to be left behind. But anyway, should not be taught the old structure, the old way of doing things. They must be taught under the new paradigm, under the new rules, in order to be successful in their future. This is what the facts are saying. All I'm dealing with the facts. Everything that I'm saying is truthful. And all you have to do is research it. And you can always feel free to ask questions. I will give you the information that I have. And the last thing is, check this out. This is real deep stuff, because remember, the old paradigm, the old structure, has collapsed. So it says, in taking care of the elders. This is Mr. Bomar's words, that we have to learn how to take care of the elders. So what does that mean? Really, what? Comprehension. What does that mean to take care of the elders? What will be considered an elder? Basically, the mind frame of the people and humanity, and the mind frame of anybody with the mind frame of that contains predominant instructions from the old paradigm is an elder. So what can I say? Really, since 2011, anybody before that has a concentration in the old paradigm, the old structure, mind frame, is an elder. How do we handle these people? What is it saying? Comprehension. I'm breaking down the comprehension. How do we handle these people? These are the resistance. These are, can't teach an old dog new tricks. These are the people that see the world through a different filter. These are the people that stand in between us reaching our utopia on this side of the pendulum where we can be as narcissistic, and we'll be as narcissistic as we like, because we no longer have to try to survive. We don't even have to try to strive. Technological advancements has allowed us to be hands-free, and now we're going to live as gods. So what are we going to do with those old timers that can't see it our way, that cannot ascend, that are left behind? Because you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Anyway, let me go ahead. I'm just all over the place. He goes on to say, wow, let me get up off here. This video is only 17 minutes long. I preach so much, but it's so much, and it is so important. So I do ask you to share this video. I even hope that you make your own video and just break it down. If maybe you're a better speaker than I am. Maybe I can spark something. What am I trying to do? The ultimate goal here is to say, hey, we at this place for real, especially certain cultures where, like, excuse me, I'm going to say this and I'm going to let it go. See, I'm not even going to go through this whole thing. I said that the other day, and the video was 2 hours long, and I got 55 possible views. That's so interesting to me. Anyway. What was I going to say? I started fussing and cussing, because that's what I do. Anyway, I was going to talk about this is another thing. I'm going to just sit on these things that he said, because I forgot I was going to say, but that was important. Anyway, Mr. Bomar says, talks of the law of possession and how you cannot take it with you. That's an old statement, that when you die, you can't take nothing with you out of this world. You don't even take your body out of this world, which is 100% true. But from what mindset is he saying this? We need to comprehend these things, and it's not him that I am attacking, but what I am doing is exposing the paradigm we are in. And he is a poster person, a host to this new paradigm. And he hasn't made the paradigm happen. We did it collectively. The paradigm has shifted, is here, and it is up and running. And now it's just a question about, are you going to be left behind? If you are left behind, what do you do? What will your life consist of? You going to just keep existing until the day you die? You know, what about the children that have already been, we can say, improperly influenced by the old structures or instructions associated with the old structure, and how they themselves will be internally conflicted because they're going to think one way on the inside, but the world outside of them is going to be a different way. And that's what I have dealt with. I know I have dealt with that in the course of my life. And it's taken a whole lifetime to sort all that crap out. So this is what I'm talking about, where we are and the different types of people that will exist. Again, you know, I use YouTube as a platform in which I can document my thoughts and then slowly break them down and clear them up. But again, I'm going all over the place. Let me go back to comprehension of the law of possession. He says you can't take it with you. We know that. Ownership leads to unhappiness. That kind of go back to that Buddha thing where they said something like this, the things of the material world bring you sadness. Why? Because they are inconsistent. They deteriorate, and if you're connected to them, it affects your emotional state. He was saying something like that. I'm just talking about it loosely. And so he talks about the instability, you being upset, your energy levels being thrown off. And so he says, and I quote this, I quote Mr. Bomar's statement, and he says, the true power is to have no possessions. I repeat, the true power is to have no possessions, which is an interesting quote. I'm hurrying now because this has been too long. this is an interesting quote, because he's talking about possessions relative to relationships and not being possessive of another. And we know that that's healthy, but comprehension, it's from another perspective, and the only way I can do it is to define it. Anyway, I'm rambling. Possessions give you weight and they hold you down. I'm quoting him again. Possessions give you weight and they hold you down. That is going back to mythology about your soul being, was it China, Japanese or something, China mythology about the soul being light as a feather. So it's going back, it's playing on the old system. This is something, and I'm just not talking about Mr. Bomar, but I'm talking about the teaching. See, when the students are ready, the teacher appears. He appeared as a teacher to me to help me see clearly, to comprehend, to finally get like the last piece of this puzzle relative to this transition that we have just currently undertaken. And here in this realm, he helped me see. And so I bring that up because it says possessions give you weight, they hold you down. Now, in this current paradigm, remember I said anybody that has the teachings or learnings of instructions from the old paradigm will be left behind. But I look at this man and he looks like he's about 30 or so or 40 or so. Good looking brother. I don't know how old he is, but he has been affected. He has learned from the old paradigm. Evidence has been presented to that through the statements that he makes, like you can't take it with you. The true power is in having no possessions. Possessions give you weight and hold you down. And what am I saying that for? Bringing it up because that means that person, this Mr. Bomar, was able to accept in order to ascend it. Although influenced by the old instructions, the old paradigm, he still was able to bridge this transition that has been brought on by our advancements in technology and make the successful jump over to the new paradigm, but is still able to access the information from the old one. So what gift does he have? What am I saying? He has the gift of, number one, he's like a Moses. Come on over here. This is how you do it. And then he also has the ability to affect those that are left behind. He still can speak their language. Are we comprehending? Now, he's just an example. He's a teacher that appeared when the student was ready. So he taught me. Anyway, he says it is best to honor, but do not possess. Honor what? The relationships. But then, I'm jumping the gun. Because when it's talking about the law of possession, yes, this video that he was talking about was about relationships. But it also has this connotation whenever a cult leader, not calling him a cult leader, just referring historically, a cult leader starts a cult, the first thing he tells them to do, give over your possessions. You don't need your possessions. The cult leader uses those funds to fund his own teachings and followings and institutions or whatever. Just ending that, just throwing it out there, because we're still talking about this law of possession, which says, hey, the power is to have no possessions. That's what he's telling the people that are listening to him. It also says possessions give you weight that holds you down. You don't need to be held down at this time. You need to make this leap. And then the next thing is honor, but do not possess. And so I kind of want to look at the definition of honor because it's important. Because what do you mean by honor? I dig it, I got it. And I understand it because we're looking at it from a person that's domineering and controlling and stuff. You don't have to go like that. Let me go back. Gotta go back to the gender. For there are no gender-specific responsibilities, duties, and rules. Therefore, traditional marriage between man and woman is not necessary. It's not mandatory. This is just an example. So, because that was more of a possessive kind of thing anyway. And it was, it had all these demands associated with it, But instead of that, honor. So, I just thought it'd be important, good to look up what it means to honor someone, to be in a relationship with whomever you're in the relationship with under the new paradigm, and what you are honoring them. What does it mean? Well, honor means to be honest with another that you're in a relationship with, fairness and integrity in one's beliefs and actions. Next definition of honor. Being in a relationship with another, no matter who they are, whoever you choose to be, is high respect as for worth, merit, or rank. This person holds some value to you somehow. How about the privilege of being associated with or receiving a favor from a respected person, group, organization? Next definition of honor is to worship. Next definition of honor is to show a courteous regard for. And I bring that up because that is what has been defined. That is the definition of honor. And Mr. Sevan says it is better to honor, but not to possess. So why is possession such a bad thing? When I looked up the definition of possess, of course, the very first top of the page were all the negative connotations that we associate with possess, or to possess. Remember, right now we're talking about partnerships and how they are redefined under the new paradigm. And Mr. Bomar suggests, hey, it's better to honor, but not to possess. So we just read the definitions of honor. Now I'm going to read some of the definitions of possess that had to do with not with the old paradigm, with the old structure, that which is done away with. If you're stuck back there, you're left behind, because we are in a new paradigm, and that new paradigm began March 2011. So possess, to possess. As in relationships. To have knowledge of, define it right there. To have knowledge of what? To have knowledge of what a relationship what a traditional relationship, traditional being a man and woman yoked together. To have knowledge of the purpose of being in a traditional relationship. Possess. This is the definition of possess. To possess is to have knowledge of. So, my whole point is I had to go down a whole half a page to come from up under the negative connotations associated with the term possess. Quoting Bomar again, he says, honor, but do not possess. I just read honor. Now I'm reading what it was possess. Check it. Are we comprehending? Honor talks about this new paradigm. Relationships will be defined more, or be consist more of what the term honor means. Remember, just to be honest and fair with whomever you choose to be, to hold them in high regards, the privilege of being associated with or receiving a favor to worship them, to show a courteous regard for. That's under the new paradigm. But the old paradigm, why were you in a relationship? To have knowledge of why were you in a relationship? Relative possession. This is the definition of possession. I'm trying to get together, y'all. Is to have knowledge of. To have knowledge of what? Why you're in a relationship. To have knowledge of why you're in a relationship, a heterosexual relationship. To have knowledge of why you, at one time, we had big families. Possession. Next definition, to keep or maintain oneself, one's mind, etc., in a certain state as of peace, patience, etc., etc., etc. Interesting when they start talking about peace, patience, because then there go that religion again, that other layer that's kept things shrouded from us we couldn't see. And talked about, being under God's authorities and doing it his way, there's peace, and there long as it's about love. Love is long suffering. See, that becomes possession. Let me try to clear that up right now because I see that's going us out. Possession. Defining possession relative to relationships. The definition read, to keep or to maintain oneself, one's mind, etc., in a certain state as of peace, patience, etc. Now I'm looking at the religious veil that existed that kept what we needed to know shrouded from us. And in the Bible, it said that what love is. See, now we're getting to love. When we did honor, we never heard love under the new paradigm. But going back to the old paradigm, even using the definition of possess or possession, we find love through the word possession. Why? Because in the Bible, religiously, it said love is patient, is kind, is long-suffering, etc., etc. Here in this definition, it talks about peace and patience. It even talks about to keep and maintain oneself. It didn't say go possess another. It said to keep and maintain oneself. What are we talking about here? Self-control. Possess yourself. Okay. What am I talking about right now? The term possess. I'm looking at the terminology that our host of the new paradigm, Mr. Sevan Bomar, has presented. And he says honor, but do not possess. Well, as I said, I read honor. The term honor and all the connotations that are associated with the word honor go directly with this new paradigm that we are in. That began March 2011. If you're there, then you're headed toward success as defined by the new paradigm, the new structure. But I'm still looking back at the old structure that we just left, the old paradigm, where there was some love. And still looking at the quote that he said. It says, but do not possess. I share with you here on YouTube. I had to go down at least a half a page to bypass all the negative connotations associated with possess or possession, to get to the ones that really relate to our existence here in this physical world. And to also to find where love fit relative to relationships. And it's talking about keeping oneself. I know I'm all over the place. Anyway, it says to maintain control over oneself, one's mind, etc. To occupy or to hold. To occupy or to hold. And I just wrote here, note, as the individual person. Note, not as an individual, not to possess. Possession is not used or is not relative to possessing an individual person outside of yourself. It is about to possess a concept, an idea, a paradigm, a structure that said, hey, we have to work together in order to survive. We got to work together in order to strive. We can have love. We can care about each other. So what am I doing? Because I know it's a whole lot to be said. Oh, this is something I don't want to leave out in this video. I have to say something to the Black community. I know everybody watches me. I love y'all all. But this is to the Black community. Is that this is really going to be a challenging time. We've always faced our challenges, culturally. But this is going to be a really challenging time because traditionally, check me out, listen to me. Traditionally, we had to work together in order to strive, in order to survive, and then to survive and to strive. Unfortunately, many of us have not had the opportunity to be educated and stay current with or about technology across the board. Technology is a vast ocean of knowledge, and it requires intensive training. Even though some of us have it naturally, we have not enhanced it. Why do I bring that up during the course of this video at this time? It is because the old paradigm is gone. We were able to survive and to strive and to continue through that whole old paradigm. But with this new paradigm, most of us, probably myself, unfortunately, will be left behind. And why is that? Because traditionally, we have been a people that depended on each other. This new paradigm further promotes individuality, narcissistic, self-centered, and self-focused energy. It also a paradigm that is about high tech, talking about advancement in technology, having this awareness, and I'm not talking about just a physical awareness, even though you must be aware of what's taking place in order to shuffle yourself into a position. But it is this technology, it's not education. We built the country. We became doctors. We became lawyers. But how many of us became scientists? How many of us know how to work with algorithms and things like that? So what am I talking about? It's more than just my community, the Black community, or other communities that are lacking in this area. We are being left behind. I'm just talking to my community. I'm talking to us all, but primarily my community. This is the time, y'all, check it out. This is the time that we are being left behind. By 2026, I think it is, we won't recognize this world. And it's due to what? That advancement in technology. Something happened. And now we're swinging on the opposite side of the pendulum of self-centered, narcissistic energy, in which we don't need anyone. We are living hands-free. Well, there are many people, and there are primary cultures that lived, loved, worked, and strive, and depend on the old paradigm. So preoccupied and engulfed in the old paradigm that you've heard this on YouTube, that many have missed the shift. The shift in ascension, the shift in awareness and an awakening and an enlightenment, and accepting the new paradigm and aligning yourselves with it. Often, and tell my children, they don't listen to me, nobody listens to me, that, hey, there was a time, just always look at life as a timeline. There was a timeline in which this country was built, and it took labor, hands-on masons and stuff. And then there was a time again where we began to build more technical and coming to understand this realm and hear me say compartmentalizing, researching, and analyzing. Now we've got obviously a considerable amount of data and learns how to cross-reference it and use it. Now something happened. We have technologically advanced and has led us to being hands-free. We are at a different part of the timeline. And this different part of the timeline, or this new part of the timeline of humanity, is directly associated with a paradigm shift, a new world order, the destruction of the old structure, however you like to label it. Labels are another thing that's getting us confused. Anywho, are we comprehending what's taking place? And I made this video as I rambled. It was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember. At least I'm happy I got that out. Oh, yeah. I'm going to close this video with this. Because I'm going to tell y'all, I'm tired of getting 10, 20 views for my videos and all my hard work. But anyway, I'm going to close the video with this. I'm still talking about the 5 laws of spiritual relationship. And it is relative to the ascension process, or the second coming of the paradigm. Anyway, Mr. Bomar, the teacher I've been talking about, says, be sovereign by 2020. What does it mean to be sovereign? It means to be absolute, unlimited, ascendant, majestic, supreme. He says, and I quote him, he says, you don't want to be in this world when the world hits these singularities. Remember, swinging back. We're swinging on the opposite side of the pendulum, back to the singularity of the individual, the self, but totally separated from all. That's a whole nother video. I ain't even gonna try to go there and explain that. Anyway, I continue to quote. He says, you don't want to be in this world when the world hits these singularities. Mergers of technology, where these mergers of technology are completely in place. This ain't what he said. Now I'm just kind of improv. And the completion of 5G networks, it says you don't want to be in this world. If you got left behind, you don't want to be in this world. So I don't know what you watch here on YouTube. I have seen videos that talk about Walmart and malls closing and the coffins and the concentration camps. It says you don't want to be in this world. If you accept, ascend, and align with the new paradigm, or you get left behind. What does it mean after all these years and all that money to be left behind? It means you're left behind in the old way of thinking, the old paradigm, and you can't cross over, as our teacher, Sevan Bomar did. It says, there has been, I wrote this. There has been, is, and continues to be the gradual shrouding This is me trying to, I was finalizing it because I realized I was going further and further. But it talks about how the veils, all the veils, and how the mind could not comprehend what it was experiencing. It couldn't, it just couldn't see. And then he goes in, and I'm just going to play a little bit of this video, and then I'm gonna let y'all go. It's the 5 laws of the spiritual relationship, inner understanding, by Sevan Bomar, our teacher. Yes, he is our teacher, and I'm probably just gonna close out listening to him. But you know, I ain't gonna close out listening to him. I got something else to say. Hopefully you can hear.
Resonance is vibes, right? It's not frequency. We're family. So every single day. For any reason, even in some of the closest relationships, if one chooses to stop while the other one is continuously rising in their awareness, and they will eventually be separated. And that's a reason. The other.
I'm gonna let you go. He was just talking about relationships. He's finished on the law of resonance, I believe it is. He was talking about if you don't relate to each other, you ain't on the same wave level, if you ain't got something in common, you know, birds of a feather flock together, then the relationship's gonna break down. That's true. That's true. But what we're seeing is this shifting, and it's not about good people or bad people. It's not. And this is another thing that religious folks is going to end up having to deal with. It's difficult. It's not right now. It's not about, I thought it was now, don't get me wrong, but it's not about good people or bad people. It's just about people that can see the new paradigm and can rock with it and relate with it. And it's about those that cannot see the new paradigm that's left behind, you know. Now, once in fully engaged in the new paradigm, I'm sure it has something to do with the good and evil, you know, the light and dark. But for right now, what am I talking about? Let me close this video down. I thank you for, if you come this far and listening to me and the information I'm offering in this video, I thank you for riding away with me. But what has this video really been about? It's been about relationships as our focus relative to the paradigm shift, the coming of the new world order, if you like to say. It is about recognizing what we are seeing and hearing. This video was to awaken you as far as your comprehension. I talked about this Mr. Bomar because after listening to him speak, I realized he was a poster person, a poster host for the new paradigm. At the same time, I understood while he was speaking to those entering into the gates of the new kingdom, he was also, well, that was his focus, to speak to the folks. He's standing at the gates of the new kingdom, speaking to them. Where I guess a person like myself are speaking to those that will be left behind. To be left behind. Are y'all comprehending? Do I have to make a video that only 55 people watch to talk about what it means to be left behind and the effects? Ooh, days and days of research. But it's intriguing. I know it's needed. Be left behind. Anyway, Thank you for coming to Can Angels Fly. If you did, and riding the wave with me, I ask you to share this video. And guess what, y'all? I need y'all to share it and to like it. Thank you. Bye.